A white rapper and former YouTuber named DJ Short E has filed a lawsuit alleging a wide-ranging effort in the recording industry to shut down his career based on his race and his religion. He's accusing DJ Khaled of using his wealth and influence to sabotage his recording career on the basis of his religion, which is Jewish, while DJ Khaled is Palestinian. He's also accusing a YouTuber, podcaster, and former radio DJ in Los Angeles named Bootleg Kev of pulling strings to get his YouTube channel canceled. DJ Shorty is claiming that all of this was orchestrated by a Tampa radio host named Orlando Davis, who is supposedly behind the scenes of all these activities and was doing this through a company that owns a number of radio stations. I'm Kevin Nooper. I'm an attorney at Nooper & Covey, and I want to walk you through all the details of this giant beef. Here's a copy of the lawsuit. You can see that the plaintiff here is Erik Mishiyev. That is DJ Shorty's real name. He is, and alleges in the lawsuit, this is not something that I'm just sort of dropping for nothing, but he says he's a white Jewish rapper. And his lawsuit is based largely on the idea that he's been discriminated against on the basis of being in those two categories. And so he's trying to use anti-discrimination laws to sue these people. He is suing Orlando Davis, real name Arlandal, you can see there, and also this company Beasley Media Group, which is just kind of a family company that owns a bunch of different radio stations, including the station in Tampa, 94.1, that Orlando Davis works for. Now, he is not suing Bootleg Kev or DJ Khaled, but we see a bunch of allegations in here about them. We're going to see some text messages or Instagram messages between DJ Shorty and Bootleg Kev. So it does appear there has maybe been some kind of beef, but is that based on religion or race? I don't know. And frankly, as to all these allegations, I would say I don't know if any of these are true personally. No idea. This is just a lawsuit that's been filed. It was also filed pro se, which means by the person. It was filed by DJ Shorty himself. The first version kind of looks like he might have had a lawyer or paralegal involved in this, because this is formatted in the way that you'd expect an attorney to format this. He has filed a later complaint that's not really formatted the way that an attorney would. So I don't know whether he's had assistance on this or not, but it is labeled as being filed by him himself. So this is all essentially what DJ Shorty is saying. We don't have the response from anybody else, and DJ Khaled and Bootleg Kev, because they're not parties to the lawsuit, are not going to get a legal opportunity to respond or file anything. Whether they have anything to say, they'll have to do it in public. But I haven't seen anything like that either. So that is all preface to the drama that we're about to get into, because this is kind of a crazy lawsuit here. And I'm going to show you first an article attached to the lawsuit, a little bit about who DJ Shorty is, if you haven't heard of him. This is a news article about DJ Shorty. He attached this to his lawsuit as an exhibit, and it gives a pretty good background on him. It's from January 2011. He says that he was kind of like an OG YouTuber, essentially, that he, back in the day, was really popular on YouTube. He had a big channel. He says he made around $300,000 off his YouTube channel. And this article was titled On the Short List. And it talks about kind of how he got to become a YouTuber. It says he's DJ'd at clubs around the world. He interviewed celebrities like Pharrell Williams, David Blaine, had this network of nightlife websites, and his own local access TV program called The Short E Show. And says he has all these sort of VIP contacts. And again, this is back in 2011. So DJ Shorty is saying that his career is now in the dumps, but he says it's largely because of this organized effort to blackball him and keep him out of the DJing business. He actually says he was kind of a computer nerd, is how he describes himself when he was younger. He said he ran his own bulletin board system. If you're younger, you may not know what that is. I know what that is. I had a bulletin board system. I didn't have my own phone line, but I had calls coming to my house on that. It's before the internet existed. You had to go dial up to your like phone to phone, and you would get on these very primitive versions of the internet that were kind of like little message boards. But so he says he was running one of those back in the day when you didn't have an internet. And then he sort of collects all these text numbers. So he says he had 10,000 cell phone numbers from this big list. He had an email list. He had a YouTube channel called The Short E Show, and he's making all this money off that. He's making all this money on nightlife. Says he's getting 5,000 hits a day and getting more than 10 million views on YouTube. And he wants to represent on the radio or be syndicated nationally. That's his goal. So he was working on like AOL radio, which also some younger people may not have heard of AOL online or been on that. So he says basically in his lawsuit that he had this big thing going, and it all got destroyed when Orlando Davis stepped in to stop him. Here, just to introduce you to Orlando Davis, is his Instagram page. You can kind of see some pictures of him here. You may not know who he is unless you're in the Tampa area. You can see that he works for Wild 94.1. That's a radio station there. Looks like he's got a 4-hour from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. show called Orlando and the Freak Show. So he's the guy you may be listening to if you're commuting in Tampa. Here's some more photos of him. Here's a photo of a car crash, which I'll show you in a second. He's had some unfortunate news recently involving that. You can see he was in the news a few months ago for something very unfortunate that should not have been happening as he was driving. He is in the nightlife, so being, when you're a local radio host, you get involved in a lot of those events sponsored by radio stations. It's something where you should have been taking an Uber, and you should always take an Uber if you're going to be out at night, drinking. This is one of the exhibits to the lawsuit. So all the text that you're seeing here, all the red marking, that appears to have been done by DJ Shorty. And I did look for this on the Instagram page of Orlando Davis and couldn't find it. I only scrolled back about 3 years, and he's got tons of posts. I was trying to find that t-shirt to see if this video is still up. But DJ Shorty says that as of at least a few months ago, there was a video on Orlando Davis's Instagram page where he allegedly said, "I'm the reason DJ Shorty didn't make it for the last 20 years. And that's going to be the core allegation of this lawsuit, is that Orlando Davis, while working at this radio station, was trying to shut down DJ Shorty's career and keep him from being the most successful rapper in the area, or this meteoric career that DJ Shorty says that he was on. So now I'm going to jump back to the beginning of the lawsuit and walk you through all the drama that's being alleged. There's some more exhibits. I'll jump to those in a sec as I show you some of the text messages that he's attached. He's dropping some people's messages to him and some affidavits and other stuff in here. But let's see what he is saying in general. So go through here. This is just legal stuff. This is what's called a statement of facts. So he's saying what happened. He said, DJ Shorty says, this action arises from 20 years of sabotage from the defendants, who are major corporate players in the music and radio industry, against him. He says he used to be in high demand. He was the successful nightclub DJ in all the big cities. But he says that the program director of this Beasley Media Group conducted corporate greed and discrimination and sabotage against him. The plaintiff, Mr. Mishiyev, which is DJ Shorty, is making these statements under oath and is willing to take a lie detector test. Lie detector tests are not really that reliable. They're not really allowed in court, but sometimes people do that to show their confidence in their case. And he says that he was born in Brooklyn. He was passionate about the music industry. He loved Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, and talks about his heritage, that he's from an Orthodox Jewish community in Brooklyn. They fled communism. They came to the U.S. as immigrants. He says that he started training as a disc jockey in the 1990s, and then went to Tampa, which is how, I guess, this beef starts back in 1996 with Orlando Davis. Now, one legal thing as a side that you may be wondering is, if it goes back to the 1990s, can he still sue under the statute of limitations? He may have a problem there. Just speaking as a lawyer, he's got two legal claims. I went through all the claims he's asserting. He has two that are 4-year statute of limitations, and the rest appear to be 2-year statute of limitations under Florida law. So a lot of this may get zapped out. Anything before November, or I'd say about August 2021, for most of his claims, he can't sue under them. He may be able to go back a little earlier to August 2019 or so, based on when he filed this lawsuit. A lot of this is probably going to get zapped out, and he may have other legal problems as well. But this is probably most interesting for the drama, because when you're filing a lawsuit without a lawyer, it's real hard to win anyway. We'll see. He was looking. We have some texts talking about Morgan & Morgan, a famous Florida law firm that many people have heard of all the time on the radio. But we'll get to that later. What is he saying about Mr. Davis and all these other people? So he says that Mr. Davis is of African-American descent and comes from Indiana, got transferred to Tampa, and is this program director he's talking about at 94.1, which is a hip-hop station. And DJ Shorty says that in 1999, he landed a job as a resident DJ of a nightclub that was called Rain Lounge, which was then a big club in Tampa, Florida. He says he started getting a big following. He had some of his followers included the Backstreet Boys, Derek Jeter, and he was, and the Backstreet Boys were actually probably big back in the 1999. And they based, depending on your age group, they're still got a lot of fans. And he says that he was the driving force behind that nightclub's success, was him being the DJ there. And DJ Shorty says that Orlando Davis and some of his employees were coming out to that nightclub, that DJ Shorty was booked 3 nights a week there up until 2005. He was getting paid higher than the other DJs in town. He was getting regular media coverage. And that's when this beef starts. Orlando Davis, according to DJ Shorty, did not like that. He says that even though Mr. Mishiyev, DJ Shorty, had a big fan base, the defendants didn't want to give him equal opportunity employment, because he's claiming that the goal of any independent DJ like DJ Shorty was to get on the radio because it gives you status, stability, and more credibility when you're heard on the air, but that Orlando Davis would hire less qualified DJs for his station. And this might have been true back then. I don't know if it's true today. You might actually have more cred being on YouTube or TikTok, but in 1999, none of that existed. We didn't even have smartphones. We were just coming off these bulletin board systems, a few years, actually only probably 4 or 5 years off those. And now there was an internet, but still you wanted to be on the radio. So he says that he stood out at the hip-hop events as one of the few Jewish people there. And in 2004, he told Orlando Davis about this upbringing, and he says that he was professional towards Mr. Davis, and Mr. Davis was a big figure because of having an on-air position, and as the program director, he had the power to hire and fire and decide what songs were played on the radio and make the playlists. Now, the media company that DJ Shorty is suing is now brought up here. That's this Beasley company, and they just own all these different radio stations. He is claiming that Orlando Davis started harassing and mocking him based on his Jewish last name since they first met. And he posted this video on the Instagram page, which it listed as 4/17/2022, admitting that he's the reason that DJ Shorty, quote, ain't made it in the last 20 years, which DJ Shorty is interpreting to mean he was sabotaged by Mr. Davis. And then he also says that in this video, Mr. Davis stated that he was, quote, the big boss at Beasley Media Group. And I did go double check based on that date, and it does look like if this video was up, it has been taken down or it's not there anymore. So I can't see whether what DJ Shorty is saying is true on this or not. He says that this video is the smoking gun evidence that shows that there was a pattern of unlawful sabotaging behavior for 20 years against the plaintiff, and this destroyed his good reputation, preventing him from getting new bookings. He says that he has corroboration for this from former employees of Beasley. And we'll see that in a minute. This person, Alician Gordon, who worked with the defendant, that would be Mr. Davis, directly for 18 years, says that she knows all about it. And there's this text message that she sent him that insinuated that anyone who worked for Mr. Davis at Wild 94.1 FM witnessed him vowing to ruin DJ Shorty. So let's look at that text message that he attaches to the lawsuit. Here's the text message, and this is where we first see accusations against Bootleg Kev, that YouTuber coming in here. And again, these are accusations, but that's what he's saying. So you can see the text message says, cool, thanks for the connect, need as much help as I can get. These green ones appear to be from DJ Shorty. It says, my life has been turned upside down. I wouldn't be surprised if he had something to do with getting my YouTube channels taken down. Bootleg Kev in LA came at me for no reason one day when I lived out there. Never met that dude. And then a shrug emoji. And then this Elysian says, I think this is her text saying, dude, I have a vested interest in seeing you succeed. This man traumatized me with 18 years of emotional and verbal abuse. By the way, almost anyone who worked there witnessed him vowing to ruin you. So there's lots of people your attorney can call, believe me. And that is the full text that he at least puts in the complaint. And to be clear here, it does look like she's talking about Orlando Davis, not Bootleg Kev, whenever she's doing this text. He's the one who brings up Bootleg Kev and having some kind of incident with him. And is this smoking gun? It does at least suggest that there's a beef. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's discrimination, but it does, if what she's saying is true, then that would... Beefs are not uncommon and not necessarily a lawsuit, though. But let's see what more drama we can find in this lawsuit. So now he says that Wild 94.1 is it's a station that has prominence in the world of hip hop, and so it's a big station. It's something where you really need to succeed, and radio employees, if they're successful there, then they can become successful nationwide because they're sister stations, other stations affiliated with them. He says Mr. Davis hosts this morning freak show, which is the one we saw on his Instagram, and DJ Shorty says he was never employed by Beasley. But with no legal justification, in July 2017, someone at Beasley Media attempted to seek out plaintiff's trademark, but it was later canceled due to the trademark having already been registered by Mr. Mishiyev. I could not find that online. I don't know if I was searching for the wrong thing. I did find that he does have trademarks, but I couldn't verify that there was any effort by Beasley Media to do this. He is alleging that they created a fake caricature promoting a DJ called Short E, but that imposter DJ did not present any likeness to him. But he says that that's another example of sabotage with malicious intent to defraud, to deceive the public who the real DJ Shorty is, while trying to steal his copyrighted intellectual property. He says that he should have been employed by Beasley, based on his track record being so great, but due to racial discrimination and harassment displayed against him by Mr. Davis and some other Beasley employees, he was turned into an outcast. He says that DJ Shorty says he in addition to being DJ, he had a TV show and several highly successful YouTube channels. But he says that based on information and belief, Orlando Davis interfered with those channels because he knew that DJ Shorty was making a bunch of ad money on it, and now he's getting into the allegations against Bootleg Kev. So he said DJ Shorty is saying that Orlando Davis instructed his Beasley on-air DJ in Los Angeles, who's Bootleg Kev, to contact YouTube directly on January 20th, 2019, and that they pulled some strings that got the DJ Shorty channels terminated. And he also says that Orlando Davis was telling local venues in Tampa, Florida, that unless they stopped allowing him to appear, that Wild 94.1 would not promote those venues or let them advertise with their station. Then he refers to this Exhibit B and says that this person who's going to be his witness, named Amber Bogart, got text messages in late 2022 in October saying she contacted a club owner and asked him what he thought about DJ Shorty. And this club owner is Italo Pignano, who runs multiple nightlife venues in the Tampa area. Let's see what he says about DJ Shorty in those texts. These are the texts that are supposed to be with this club owner. They say, hey, what have you heard about DJ Shorty? So it looks like they were sort of fishing for some kind of information about this, about what people thought about him. And the club owner supposedly says, hi, it's all over the internet, horrible reputation. Then she says, what happened though? He says, I've never given him a shot because of that. He has been asking to DJ for me since like 2011. All other DJs in town make fun of him. I don't know the exact reasons, but that's why I've never even tried him. Since he's raising Bootleg Kev and his alleged involvement in this, I'll jump to the screenshots he provides about him. There's not a whole lot of evidence about Bootleg Kev actually attached to this lawsuit, but this is what he's saying are comments from Bootleg Kev. It looks like that they might have been commented on the Instagram for DJ Shorty, at least from how these appear. And what Bootleg Kev supposedly said is, it's funny, I lived in Tampa 2+ years and you never were booked a single time at Drink or the Lodge like I was on a weekly basis. Everyone laughs at you in your own hometown. That's got a blank. Go cry yourself to sleep, blank boy. And then says, you obviously aren't a talent. Your claim to fame is making YouTube mixes. That's all. My resume speaks for itself, buddy. You, sir, are a corny little old blankhead who obviously is delusional. And then lots of laughing emojis. Again, no, make another corny YouTube mix that you can't get paid off of. Make Mega Dance Mix end of 2017 wrap up or some blank. LOL. So Bootleg Kev is, if these are comments from him, and again, all I have is these YouTube screenshots or screenshots to the lawsuit, then it would appear that there is some acrimony, maybe it's the way to put it, between them, or a beef. Not necessarily, I'm not seeing anything in here calling him these names. It's not something that you can really sue someone over. It also doesn't admit to anything like trying to take down his YouTube page. And I will note that DJ Shorty actually filed a separate lawsuit around the same time, claiming that a bunch of record companies were involved in taking down his YouTube channel. He says that they made false reports for including his DJ Shorty's own face and claimed to have a copyright over his image. If what Bootleg Kev is saying here is true, and I can't see it anymore because the YouTube channel's down, but if he really was just making mixes of other copyrighted music, then that might be the reason why his channel got nuked. We don't know, or I don't know anyway. Bootleg Kev, I'm sure, can speak for himself about whether the beef rose to any problems like this, or whether if DJ Shorty was just making mixes, then he might have created his own problems. We don't know. See if the beef continues. So let's go back and look at what the lawsuit says, because we're going to get to DJ Khaled and some other more accusations. So DJ Shorty says that based on that text message we saw, the one with the nightclub owner, that the defendant, that's Orlando Davis, successfully ruined his reputation throughout the years and manipulated the masses against him, using his weight as the star and big boss of Beasley's radio station. As Bog Boss, but I think it probably is not the Bog Boss. He says, we have evidence of sabotage on the air, in private and even in public, on his social media posts where he made false accusations that Mr. Mishiyev was using substances that he should not have used, and made fun of his last name because of his Jewish ethnicity, and made fun of his DJ skills, and ridiculed his business Hot Forever LLC by calling it Hot for Never. I will say that's calling it Hot for Never is probably not going to get you a lawsuit. There could be reasons why, if he was making comments based on ethnicity or racial background while a hiring director, while considering him, that could be an issue. Statute of limitations, again, is going to be the big problem here. He says that he's tagging all these people on his Facebook page. There are a bunch of names, but I'm not really seeing like for any of these people kind of what they would have done specifically. It says clear evidence of this, which I think is the tagging, is found from Facebook, and more evidence that shows clear intent of employment interference by Beasley Media DJs. So I think what he's saying is that he might have been tagging um, DJ Shorty in Facebook posts that were saying that his hot forever was hot for never. Um, that is at least how I'm reading this. And that Davis was tagging more employees at his radio station to further ruin DJ Shorty's employability, and then he cites this composite Exhibit C. So let's go look at some of that Exhibit C to see what hot for never insult. So this is Exhibit C. Again, this is DJ Shorty's exhibit. It looks like a collection of screenshots. We've seen a couple of them, the Bootleg Kev and some of this, but I'm going to walk you through some of these Facebook posts that he's got here. So if we scroll down, we've seen this page about Orlando. Then this is what he's talking about with the tagging. So there's a Facebook post by Orlando Davis where he tags a bunch of people, and it's covering up some of what he's saying here. I'm not really seeing anything about DJ Shorty in there, but it's hard to read the entire thing. It looks like kind of just a general post. Then Erik Mishiyev, that's DJ Shorty's real name, is jumping in there and into this discussion. There's on the left is the public post. He says, "Hey, Stu Robinson, why are you writing my you-know-what when my situation with O has nothing to do with you? Listen, bro, you've been fired from 95.7 The Beat, and if you keep it up, you'll be fired from 101.9 FM next. Here are the facts. I have 90 million lifetime views on YouTube. I've never been on the air. Tells you something, doesn't it? Nobody cares or listens to you." And then the Stu Robin says, "You'll never get fired from radio because you will never work at one. LMAO, with all your YouTube quote success, you're still unknown. Explain that." And then they kind of go back and forth in some beefing. DJ Shorty says, "I'm unknown, but my name keeps coming out of your mouth. You know me, LOL." And then Stu Robinson says, "We enjoy clowning you. Love to laugh, and you're the biggest joke out this month. Have your assistant call me again." DJ Shorty says, "These type of things cause people not to want to work with me. Anytime someone broadcasts negative or false information is slander or libel. It's a small community. I thought you knew better than that. Please just mind your business, or I'm going to add your station to my suit. Delete this post immediately. I've already snapshotted it and using it as evidence and proof that when Orlando says something about me, it has a trickle-down effect with other DJs, and people have false misconceptions about me. Good luck to you in Charlotte." And there's a message here with DJ Q that looks to be a private message to Mr. Shorty that says, "Stu, that Stu, that he's harassing you and making fun of your orientation. You don't have to be blank or of that orientation." But I'm trying to not say anything that might be flagged, but it's just like if he was making fun of your religious beliefs. It's the power of suggestion. He's teaming up with Orlando to hurt your name in Tampa and abroad. We jump back up from that long stream of back and forth. You can see that this says in the lawsuit that Stu Robinson, that guy we were looking at on the left, is an on-air employee of Beasley Media. So he's saying, again, you're part of this orchestrated effort to ruin my career. Then we get into this part of the Facebook. It may be hard to read here, but he is one of the people who's in the middle of this beefing conversation. They're kind of all going back and forth. He says, "Orlando dropped the booger sugar quote on him, Lord." Oh, for the win. So he's being accused of using, quote, booger sugar. You can probably figure out what that is something you should not be, something in his nose. And then DJ Shorty says, "More evidence of slander implying someone does the booger sugar on a public figure affects my reputation and employment opportunities. Thanks for the statement." Orlando Davis does jump on the conversation down here. Response to someone who says, "Ekin is the next target." That's a little target emoji. Orlando Davis says, I didn't have his name to tag him, but he said he was next to Stu, but then the post disappeared apparently." Someone tells Orlando or says, "Watch out, son, he's on here now." It looks like he's saying it to someone else. They scroll down a little bit. Orlando Davis appears to be responding to him in this back and forth. You can also see that DJ Shorty has some tabs open about his grades and how to file a slander lawsuit. So he was looking at that whenever he was doing this. But so Orlando Davis says, "Hey, Erik, some incomprehensible..." Oh, no, he's making fun of his last name. So he is making fun of his last name, Mish, what the blank. "You didn't answer the interview questions. Dude, what?" I can't read what's marked out. "And you're not going to answer the people you've assembled.
Not Gucci, dude. Here they are again. Oh, blank. I've never gotten to interview a star, so I have a list of questions if you don't mind. Why do you only show old pictures of events 15 years ago? You're international. You don't have an international camera? Are you believing I blackballed you because you can't get hired? Or because the PDs who won't hire you are saying that to get you out of their office? Does the offer still stand for you and your equally diminutive brother, that's short, to kick my blank? I was so looking forward to it. Do you still want me to invest in your club? And if you have these rich destinations and partners, why not ask them instead of the hater? Do you need the number of my jeweler for a longer chain? Evan Duke is the man at bling. He can get you a much bigger choker than the one you got. Ooh, one more. How do you know Taylor Swift? So that is all Orlando Davis that appears to be directed to DJ Shorty. So they are going back and forth, and that is at least a knock on his last name. Although, that's what speaks for itself, I suppose. And if we scroll down a little, there's another screenshot of this Facebook thing where someone named Jamie Ferreira says, "I'm sure I'm on the list of 20 people, or list. Sorry, I'm sure I'm on the list of people he's going to target because I know Tommy Chuck would hire him like 20 times." And then the same person says, "You say whack, I say, why the blank are you following me on IG? That's hella suspect, little man. Then again, this is your yearly look at me. I'm trying to be relevant in a market share where everyone hates me, or in a market where everyone hates me. There's a difference between people hating on you and being hated as a human. Want to take a guess where I'm siding?" And then DJ Shorty says, "Thanks for that statement, Jamie. That's exactly what my lawyer asked for. Orlando has caused people like you to interfere with something that has nothing to do with you and has affected my employment opportunities at other local stations. I really appreciate that, gathering all my evidence." Um, and then they start talking about booger sugar again and and gibberish that DJ Shorty is being accused of engaging in. If we scroll a little more, there's a video of Orlando Davis, which appears to be another Facebook post, and someone on that says, um, which may have been a video about DJ Shorty. It's kind of hard to tell, but someone's jumping in saying, "Tell you one thing, Orlando Davis, LOL. iHeartMedia doesn't want him either," which appears to be an accusation that that person was referring to DJ Shorty. The last part of this is some other comments that say, someone saying, "You may want to find a better DJ." And then someone named Amber Danielle says, "You have a DJ that got roasted by a syndicated radio show and clowned by DJs everywhere. Yeah, you're good, LOL." And they look like they're responding on some kind of other Tampa Bay hotspots. We'll go back and look at what he's saying about all this. So this does jump a little between these paragraphs on the exhibit, so I may be jumping too. But you can see on 47 here, paragraph 47, that talks about that social media post. He says it's a radio DJ from a station 93.3 named David Martinez, who is saying that iHeartMedia doesn't want him either. And DJ Shorty says that refers to ongoing efforts to exclude him from work opportunities in entertainment or the radio industry. He says, I'll jump up because he refers to a new exhibit. He says that because he's Jewish, there's a former employee named Skyla Lucky, who is the traffic reporter working for Orlando Davis. And he says that she heard and saw Mr. Davis making fun of employees on Jewish holidays several times and even put in a complaint, but that Beasley didn't take any action. So let's look at that exhibit. This is a message that he attaches to the lawsuit that Mr. Shorty says that is part of a message to this Skyla Davis, and she says that he messages her, says, "Hey Skyla, thanks for trying to help. What happened with you and O?" Then he says, "I was his traffic reporter. I heard him make fun of Ali several times for being Jewish. Not cool. He and the former GM Mike, what's his face, were in the hallway one day on a Jewish holiday making fun of her. I heard enough and contacted their HR on him. HR didn't do anything. Instead, they moved me to Tampa to report from the iHeartMedia building. At the time, they had a contract with Total Traffic Network owned business iHeart. That's why they could do that." So that certainly, if that happened, and this is coming from someone else, according to this, then Miss Lucky would definitely have issue. She could have some legal claims if she's still in the statute of limitations, but that doesn't necessarily give him legal claims. It's attorneys will call this "a brick is not a wall" in terms of evidence. That's a phrase that means your evidence doesn't have to prove everything, but if you add up enough bricks, you may have a wall. So it is something that if they were doing this to other people, if true, it would suggest that there might be issues at that station in general. But it also doesn't necessarily tie in people like Bootleg Kev or DJ Khaled, who we will see a reference to him in a minute. It would be something about what's happening at Beasley internally. Here's some more of the allegations that he's making. He says that
DJ Shorty says he used to work at Club 1509, aka Club Sky, on a contract where he was the promoter and DJ. And he invented an event called, quote, Best of Both Worlds on the weekends at that club. He says he worked hard, invested a lot of money to build a crowd, but then Orlando Davis came to that club in 2005, sabotaged him for the first time, and got his contract canceled because he says that that Davis lied to the club owners, said he was using, I suppose, booger sugar is the way to put it, and that this would be some discrimination here, that white boys should not be throwing hip-hop parties. And he says that Orlando Davis got him fired from his own event, took his contract for the next 20 years until this year when that's just a flyer. It's not that interesting, so I'll skip over that one. Then Mr. Short, or DJ Shorty, says, the defendants only stopped these broadcasts because plaintiff threatened a lawsuit. It is well known that defendants stole his Best of Both Worlds event creation, which made Club Sky and Beasley Media Group and Mr. Davis well over $5 million, all based on DJ Shorty's ideas. And he says that although he had paved the way for this profit, he was never offered an opportunity to come back and work there, even though he had numerous attempts. He says that 94.1 was broadcasting on air from this club, profiting off his ideas, and that he has photos of his events at this club to prove his allegations, as well as a key witness affidavit. So let's look at that affidavit. That's Exhibit E here. An affidavit is a signed, sworn statement that is submitted to a court. So this is a screenshot of the affidavit. It's from Eric Green, who's the founder of Boys to Men International, which is a nonprofit organization. And that he says that DJ Shorty was lending his services on their board of directors, and that he agreed in exchange for that to call all the local nightclubs and bars and try to book him because he remembered him as one of the Bay Area's most sought out and successful DJs in the past. He says that from January 20 to 2022, I called various venues all throughout the Tampa, Florida area. On December 18th, 2020, I met with a popular nightclub owner named Gene Austin at his office in Club Envy, or behind Club Envy. He says that in that meeting, this Gene Austin proceeded to state that he liked DJ Shorty, but it was a risk to hire him because of what Orlando Davis and Beasley Media employees said to him on Friday, November 11th, 2020, specifically about him using booger sugar, and that he doesn't want his business to be caught up in any bad publicity. Defendant and his employees said these statements on behalf of Beasley Media in an attempt to sabotage their competitor. Mr. Mishiyev and I believe that he was not hired because of what Mr. Davis and some of his employees said on that date and many other dates. He says, I'm willing to testify to that under court. He says he's known DJ Shorty since 2005 and knows for a fact that he does not use booger sugar. I've also called Club Sky to see if I could book DJ Shorty there since he worked at this venue from 2004 to 2005 before Davis got him fired. And that whoever answered an employee named Alfredo, or whoever answered their phone, stated that Orlando, which would be Orlando Davis, would not want DJ Shorty playing there at all. Not even on the days 94.1 wasn't doing their live broadcast. He says he called some other venues, Hyde Park Cafe, the Kennedy, many more, but they all gave him the cold shoulder after he mentioned DJ Shorty. He was shocked because he had this great following and had been booked 3 to 4 nights a week. He says that he could recall an event where his organization, this nonprofit, had Mr. Mishiyev, DJ Shorty, and Orlando Davis working together coincidentally. He says he tried to introduce them a couple days later, but Orlando Davis seemed to avoid my attempt to help DJ Shorty get a gig on the radio. And he says, in his opinion, he believes that Orlando Davis views DJ Shorty as a threat, and instead of trying to help him, he's been out to destroy his good name and DJ career in the radio and music industry by sabotaging his main competitor. He also believes that Orlando Davis interfered with events to try to help children. And you can see this is signed in front of a notary public. This does kind of, again, look like an attorney was involved at some point in this case. Now, if we go back up in the lawsuit, DJ Shorty says he's an honest, hardworking person. He's always promoted a lifestyle that does not involve booger sugar, and he is willing to take a test to prove his case. He says that at his events, there were never any fights or rowdiness, but he says that after he got fired from this radio station from Orlando, Davis took over, that there were many fights and even very serious rowdiness is maybe the toned down way to say it, and that what was once a classy event turned into a violent, thugged out nightclub hosted by Orlando Davis and his wild 94.1 DJs. DJ Shorty says he suspects that Mr. Davis was jealous and envious of his image his talents, the type of crowd he drew, the superstar potential he'd held. But instead of helping him, he started to destroy the competition with sabotage, using his corporate radio platform. Then he says he's a self-employed DJ and a student trying to find a stable job while dealing with his horrific nightmare of constant attacks from Orlando Davis and his affiliates. So that would explain, if he's a student right now trying to move careers or doing something like that, that would explain why he had his grades open. Then he says that on April 17th, 2021, Orlando Davis released an incriminating smoking gun video on Instagram, which was unprovoked by DJ Shorty and seen by many local industry and national contacts. He says the video remains online to this day, and he wants to play it to the jury as evidence in the court hearing to see if a jury believes the video, because it would show there was sabotage. I did go back and try to find that video. It is not online as of this date that I could find on Mr. Davis's Instagram. That doesn't mean it wasn't there when the lawsuit was filed or at some prior point, but I wanted to see this and can't. And so he says that Orlando Davis and Beasley Media are still making money off this Club Sky on the weekends when their DJs and station get paid at a club that Orlando Davis allegedly got DJ Shorty fired from in 2004. He says that the pattern of sabotage stems back many years, and evidence will also show that in the summer of 2006, there was a nationwide music video contest in Tampa Bay, and the record label of Mr. Mishiyev, Hot Forever LLC, received a lot of positive media attention in Tampa and local support. However, Orlando Davis did not support DJ Shorty or his recording artists, and instructed his on-air DJs at Wild 94.1 FM to throw the CDs in the garbage and not play any songs from any artists associated with the plaintiff, Mr. Mishiyev. He says that at this music video contest, he, I guess, was sponsoring or kind of coaching or running an artist named Dan Taub, aka Verbal Science. And that Verbal Science did not win the contest because Orlando Davis used his contacts and connections at Epic Records to make sure they did not win this contest, which had as its grand prize a record deal with Epic Records. He says instead, DJ Khaled got a deal with Epic Records in 2006. And he says Mr. Mishiyev believes DJ Khaled, a Palestinian radio DJ turned record executive from Miami who's worth $75 million, paid off and teamed up with Mr. Davis to sabotage and blackball the plaintiff DJ Shorty, who is a Jewish white DJ who is on his way to national success. This type of ruthless behavior is evil and should not be tolerated. That's why discovery is so important in this case. I did try to find some stuff online about this contest. It doesn't appear there's anything. I couldn't find Verbal Science as a rapper. He may not still be active. And anything about DJ Khaled being involved in this in any way. I will also say this lawsuit was filed before all the recent stuff involving Palestine, and so it doesn't appear that was what this is referencing, although it does appear to suggest that because of his Palestinian background that Mr. Khaled or DJ Khaled may have had some kind of dislike of DJ Shorty. Is that true or not? I don't know, but that's what the lawsuit seems to be saying. And there aren't any exhibits in here that suggest that DJ Khaled was engaging in ruthless, evil behavior, but it is being alleged that he attempted to sabotage DJ Shorty here. So if we go down, and that is only the only reference to Mr. Khaled, and so, but there's not enough details here to really kind of like for me to know like what he's talking about. He says that in the radio and music business, independent artists like DJ Shorty need to be cordial with people like Orlando Davis and radio stations. And he tried for 20 years to avoid a lawsuit, but after Orlando Davis publicly admitted what he's been doing, he had no choice. Again, this can be corroborated. This, again, is a problem because there is something in statute of limitations for legally that called a discovery rule, which sometimes means if you don't discover bad conduct, it's not always true for all type of claims, but if you don't know about bad conduct but suddenly discover it later, sometimes the statute of limitation can be paused for the period until you discover it. But he's saying here he knew, but it wasn't public, and so he started suing after stuff was public. That would keep him from using the discovery rule, and so legally that adds to the statute of limitations problem if he knew about stuff going on for 20 years. Doesn't mean that anything in the last 4 years to 2 years, depending on the claim, couldn't be used, but it looks like a lot of this is very old. And then he talks about another employee. This is not him. This is not DJ Shorty who's turning this down. He says that there was a former employee who is also Jewish named Allison Gordon, who, aka Allie That Girl, who had many years of turning down Orlando Davis's advances of an inappropriate nature and enduring unprofessional comments and conduct from him. And he says that she left 94.1 FM and is willing to provide testimony evidence about Orlando Davis's behavior. And again, that is, there's not, he's saying this, but I don't have anything to show whether that's true or not. And he says that he's been harmed. He had to file bankruptcy. This is DJ Shorty. That there's no supervision of these online air personalities, that DJ Shorty has lost all his DJ jobs, he's lost his YouTube channels, he can't perform at these events. He says that he lost over $150,000 in revenue, and he believes he's owed over $10 million in damages from all of this. And he also says that Mr. Davis is engaged in payola. If you don't know what payola is, or he says it right here, that's when an artist or their managers will pay or bribe radio stations or DJs on the air to play certain songs in heavy rotation, or certain songs at nightclub events so that they'll become popular and be successful. And that's there's been a lot of scandals. I'm not saying anything about Mr. Davis, but that is historically, back into the 1970s, that was a thing that a lot of people did. There was a lot of questions about the legality, whether it might even be criminal, and they're not supposed to be doing that to be paid to pay for a play for the radio, because it was very successful. You could make a lot of songs become hits if the record company paid enough money. He said he references this affidavit that we saw earlier. Mr. Mishiyev says he is not racist. He has many African American friends. However, there is a prevalent undercurrent in the hip hop industry of white DJs and rappers being called culture vultures or wannabes. And he says that this type of prejudice led to the hostility from Orlando Davis, and that he's alleging that Mr. Davis does not believe that white people or Jewish people should be involved in the hip hop industry unless they have met his stamp of approval. Then he says that there was a confrontation which went very wrong in 2021 when he went to a place called American Social. So let's go look at the exhibit. Or actually, let's look what he says here, because the exhibit doesn't have all this. But he says that Mr. Davis must have followed him and showed up and waited outside the establishment for him to leave, and then attempted to start a physical altercation. He accuses Mr. Davis of first having made fun of him for representing him pro se in this lawsuit, as by that time he did not have a lawyer for this lawsuit. This seems to be something occurring. Well, if it's 2021, the part I don't understand about this is that's back several years before this was filed. It may be that I think there have been a series of lawsuits, so that may be referencing something else. He says that Mr. Davis noticed that DJ Shorty was wearing a Star of David symbol around his neck, and lunged towards him aggressively and stated, "I'll slap the blank out of your I'm censoring a little bit, out of your blank right now," based on, and alleged he was using terms referring to his background. "You will never get work in this town." Then he says that Mr. Davis also stated, "I don't hire people like you at my station." DJ Shorty says he only weighs 150 pounds, and he was there with one person, while Orlando Davis weighs 300 pounds and had an entourage of people with him. And then says, "Quite frankly, Mr. Davis is out of control, and his employer Beasley needs to curtail his outrageous and racist conduct." Then he says that he wasn't able to afford a lawyer, but Mr. Davis has one paid for by his company, that Mr. Davis has an issue with people of Jewish heritage, and that this only stopped after the security intervened, and that this person, Alex, is willing to testify in this matter. So let's look at what that guy says in an exhibit. So this is a message, looks like a text message that DJ Shorty attached to the complaint with someone named Alex Rodriguez, Tampa. Tampa may just be where he is, not his last name. And he says, "What's up, A-Rod? Do you remember we went to American Social on 4/12/2021, and Orlando Davis showed up and said he'll slap the blank out of my blank and was trying to fight me? If you can give me a statement, that would help my lawsuit. Please give me a call to discuss." And then Mr. Rodriguez says, "Yes, sir, I remember. Let me hit you up when I get out of work. I'm about to clock in now." And then there's one other exhibit I'll show you here. Not the short list, but this is from that Alley That Girl, which is the one who he was saying had been rejecting the advances of Mr. Davis, the improper advances. And he says, or DJ Shorty says, "Miami owns Tampa." Alley That Girl says, "You may want to hit up Morgan & Morgan. Dude is a publicity hound, so he does a lot of pro bono." And DJ Shorty says, "Something's not right. Can't pinpoint it exactly. They will have a conflict of interest. I think they advertise on Wild. I'll try, though." And then she says, "I have a lot of payola info, too. He's in bed with Izzy Sanchez ripping off local artists. It's big. We need a private investigator. Morgan has zero loyalty to Wild, believe me. That's Morgan and Morgan, the huge personal injury law firm. Whether they do a case like this, I'm not sure. He's saying, and I'm just speaking as an attorney and kind of know about them in general. They probably would have said no to this, just looking at the statute of limitations issues. I'm looking at it kind of going, would you be able to prove all this stuff, whether it's true or not? Would you be able to separate out the beef versus everything? There could be reasons they would look at this case and decide that they didn't want to take it on a contingent fee, which is what they do normally. And they're also normally more personal injury. They do a lot of things, but their bread and butter is like car crashes and things like that, but people getting injured. This is not a physical injury. While it could be an injury, it's not the core part of Morgan and Morgan's business. So that might make sense why they wouldn't want to take this case, and there could be other reasons for that as well. So is this all just a beef, or is it something he can sue on? Well, there certainly do seem to be a lot of people who don't like him. And frankly, even if Mr. Davis caused that, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have a basis to file a lawsuit or could legally win one. In this industry, there probably are a lot of these. A lot of this is just very old conduct. And is it, you kind of see that Bootleg Kev, if those are his messages, maybe doesn't like this guy, but that also doesn't necessarily mean that he's done something that you could sue on. And I will say there's a little tension between saying that the record companies are the ones who terminated the YouTube channel and also saying that Bootleg Kev did something that did that, because the things said in the lawsuit seem to be a little bit in conflict in terms of who's responsible for that. And as for DJ Khaled, I just don't see enough in here to really make a judgment, other than there's a lot of accusations being made in the lawsuit. We'll see. Will this go forward? It is very hard when you're pro se trying to do this, when you're representing yourself. And I don't know if he'll be able. It's a complex lawsuit that you can see it being very difficult for him to win on his own, even if he has the truth behind him. And we don't really know that from now. We will see what Orlando Davis has to say and what Beasley Media have to say. And then as for the others, they're not in the lawsuit, so I don't know if we'll see what they have to say. We've only seen what they say in the social media posts. So if you want to see more videos about this case, if it keeps going forward, and more videos about crazy lawsuits, hit subscribe.